Philosopher here, not really bedtime. I was doing a workout and thought I'd just share some thoughts. I went to the library or the bookstore the other day and I was just curious. I wanted to get a paper copy of the Quran, and I've listened to the Quran on YouTube, and so I have a good sense of it. I pay a lot of attention to Bill Warner and Robert Spencer, not Richard Spencer, Robert Spencer, David Atwood, Apostate Prophet, Milo Yiannopoulos, Stephen Crowder, very intelligent people who pay attention to the Quran and Islam. And so I went to the bookstore to try to get, paper copies so I can start highlighting things and, formulating my arguments to take in discussions with Islam apologists. And so there's a shelf of Islamic texts there, and what I found was every one of them was soft or uncritical, or you could call it propagandistic about Islam. I didn't see any books by Robert Spencer or Bill Warner. I did see books from Christopher Hitchens criticizing religion or criticizing Christianity. In my experience of Christopher Hitchens, he's much more critical of Christianity than Islam. That could be just what I'm exposed to. But so why is it you're able to criticize one and this little section of Islam now? It could be just that is the demographic, that is the niche market that this bookstore in particular was appealing to. It's a major bookstore. So that was real weird, trying to read through some of these Qurans. Each is a translation, and rather than using Allah to describe Allah, they substitute God. Now, in a Christian society, this is one thing that Bill Warner talks about, is if you want to propagandize, or if you want to warm up a traditionally Christian culture to your religion, and probably the Christians or the Catholics are guilty of this too, when they would go into we use the word the paganistic societies, and would adopt their cultures to bring them into the Christian culture. The Christmas tree would be an example. Or using the equinox. As far as I know, that's a tradition of kind of the sun restarting its path towards more daylight in the year. So it's not a new practice, but anybody with any sense can recognize this. And so when you substitute Allah for God and say, oh, they're the same Abrahamic God, it's complete BS. Allah and God are not the same at all. You can look at what they command their people to do. If you look at the New Testament, the general summary of Jesus' message is make yourself holy, self-sacrifice, tell the truth, proclaim the gospel, reform your life and proclaim the gospel. It's a very different message than strike the disbelievers or the non-believers at the neck. The Allahu Akbar, Allah is the best, or Allah is better. That is a supremacist statement, and and also continue reading these documents. My experience with the audio version I've listened to and the experts I've mentioned is the translations let's call them old world, and very direct, and that the disbelievers will be burning in the worst pains ever, that a Muslim is not to make friends with the disbeliever, but to sort of pretend like they're friends, and then once they gain political advantage, then they, you can't even say betray, because a kafir or a dhimmi is not human. So is to subjugate the disbelievers, to order a jizya or a tax for anybody that doesn't convert, either kill them or inflict a tax. This is common in the Middle East. Laura Loomer shared some stats, and you can look this up, but apparently an average of 90,000 Christians are killed every year in the Middle East. So the directives in the Quranic texts are clear. In the Islamic trilogy, the Quran is just one part of the holy texts, or the holy texts in Islam. So you get these whitewashed versions where instead of it saying, you know, strike down the disbelievers where they stand, take the sword to their necks, it'll say God prefers the believer over the disbeliever. So is this whitewashed version almost trying to mimic the language of the New Testament, to a point that's, I mean, unless you're retarded, you can see the manipulation, the deceit involved. So that was frustrating. I picked up multiple books, and just leafing through, of course, I didn't do a deep dive into any of the individual books, but reading through, it just seemed like BS, like whitewash BS. And the fact that the store didn't include any critical text of Islam is more of a testament to the BS. And you know, and I see quotes from Karen Armstrong. She is a liar or ignorant or just retarded, but she thinks that Islam can be reformed, and or Reza Aslan. I've seen even Christopher Hitchens go at it with Reza Aslan, just dishonest about what the text says, dishonest about how Western culture can mix with Islam is out to dominate Western culture. There won't be a Western culture if Islam has its way. So that was frustrating, and but funny enough, immediately below the Islam section was the Jewish section, which, if you know anything about Islam, it despises Jews. And you know, as I've come to of late, is the idea of Jewishness is fair game to question as well. So I wanted to learn more about this Talmud. I've heard things, you know, haven't jumped to judgment because I want to understand actually what I'm seeing. But there's some weird stuff going on. Apparently, we have 88 members of Congress that are dual citizenship Israeli and America, and at 1% of the population, that's just odd. So who is their loyalty to? In Israel itself, you're not allowed to serve on, I think it's parliament, if you're a dual citizenship. They know the importance of patriotism and, you know, which master do you serve. When we have people now in Congress that are foreign-born Somalis and married their brother to circumvent the immigration system, where this person's district is the hotbed terrorist district in the country, where we start to see spray paint that says "Long live the Caliphate." Who is their master? So So something's weird is going on with how many people who are Jews are in these positions of cultural subversion, including Hollywood. Hollywood means holly is the wood that's used to create magic wands, to cast spells. How much pedophilia is going on, allegedly. What's his name? Indiana Jones. I'm drawing a blank. But he admits it, like putting it in his movie, Indiana Jones. The character had an affair with a 14-year-old, and they wanted to make her 11 at the time. So I wanted to understand more of the Talmud, because apparently there's some damning things in the Talmud, especially towards Christians, about a cultural revolution. E. Michael Jones talks about denying of logos, and that's the idea of sort of the universal order, and that comes from law, like human law. It comes from telling the truth, that there is an actual order that which nature and humans are meant to abide by to reach their full potential. And so apparently the Talmud is a rejection of that. So the Jewish faith, as is practiced today, is younger than Christianity. Again, I'm still learning about this stuff, but that's why I went to the bookstore to find the Talmud. Some of the books I was reading there, just leafing through, said, the Talmud is one of the greatest masterpieces of religious text. Some of those books too were saying the same thing about the Quran. But they didn't have a copy of the Talmud. They had a biography of the Talmud. I've been doing internet search trying to find the Talmud, and maybe it's just this crazy book that I don't understand, but it's been difficult to find a cohesive copy of the Talmud. Maybe it's just not cohesive, again. But going to a major bookstore, sells books, doesn't sell one of the most major pieces of literature ever written. I find it strange. So, yeah, wanted to share that. Nothing conclusive, but just trying to understand the whole system, just going at different directions and observing different things. So, stay posted. Thanks for listening.